Welcome to the Idea Climbing Podcast. Everyone faces emotional downturns, especially entrepreneurs. We can get caught up in a negative story. We can get caught up in an emotion that keeps us from achieving our goals. In this episode, I discuss how you can get back into that healthy place where you are able to feel happiness, joy, and the full spectrum of positive emotions. My guest is Dr. Dorothy. Dorothy A. Martin-Neville, PhD, is a speaker, author, consultant, and master coach. She has been featured on the Oprah Winfrey Network, as well as the New York Times, the Huffington Post, NBC, and ABC. As a psychotherapist, Dr. Dorothy was in practice for 25 plus years. And as the founder of 4 companies, Dr. Dorothy has knowledge of the challenges facing leaders in business and in life. As a business and life coach, her focus is on mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and NLP. We dive into topics such as how to break the pattern of telling yourself destructive stories, why it's okay to say, I need help, and get the help you need, how to prevent yourself from slipping back into the proverbial hole once you climb out, and more golden nuggets of advice. You're going to love this show. Thank you for joining me for the Idea Climbing Podcast, Dr. D. I appreciate it.
You're most welcome. It's great to be here.
We're going to dive into some things around how to live the life and business you desire. Before we get into the strategies, the tips, the tactics, as far as it goes with mental health and mental well-being and entrepreneurship, why is that important to you? What's your story there?
Because I've seen how we can get caught up in a story, we can get caught up in an emotion that keeps us from really being who we are, which keeps us from achieving what it is we want to achieve. So to me, I want to bring folks back to being in that healthy place where they are able to feel happy, feel joy, feel all the emotions, because sometimes we're going to feel anger, sometimes we're going to feel sadness or defeated. But visit those places, don't live there. Come on back into the joy of living and take your company and yourself to the next level.
Well, when you say come back to the joy of living, I'm guessing that you're assuming some form of self-awareness. So let's go with that. If someone realizes I'm in a funk, whatever you want to call it, we'll just say funk, and they realize it, where does coming back start once someone realizes, man, I'm in a bad place?
Well, when you look at the bad place you're in, when I work with folks, the first thing I have them do is look at what's that bad place about? How did they get there? What's the story they're telling themselves at the moment? Because when we're in a bad place, we're always telling ourselves a story. And the story could be, I'm focusing on one incident of my life, and that's a filter through which I see everything. So if I was abused as a child, I'm going to see abuse everywhere in my life. So somebody doesn't return a phone call, they're abusive. Somebody doesn't recognize me at a networking meeting and they're avoiding me, they're being abusive, they're being disloyal, whatever it may be. We create a filter through which we see the world. So if you're in a funk, my first thought is, what's going on for you? What is it you're caught up in? And if we can look at what you're caught up in and begin to put that in the big picture, you see there's some legitimacy to what you're saying, but there's a whole big picture around it. And you can choose to focus on that piece or see it in the perspective of the bigger picture.
So what do you do to, okay, you realize that we look at the bigger picture. What do you do to, how do you start to shift? And I'm using this phrase intentionally. How do you control your mind enough to start to shift once you see a bigger picture?
What I do is I train folks to do a reality check. That right now, it could be anything. Let's say you're going through a divorce. All right. It could be going through a drop in your business. It could be anything, right? But let's just pick a divorce. You're going through a divorce. All of a sudden, you're caught up in betrayal. You're caught up in abandonment. You're caught up in feeling used. Wherever you go, some go into victimization, some go into feeling used and abused. Each one goes to their own place based on their early history. And okay, that's what you're experiencing, legitimately so. How can we help you get beyond that? Because you have the option of spending the rest of your life in that space. Or you can recognize This is a horrible thing that's happening. It's not what you planned for your life, but it's what's here. So, how can we help you get through it and come out on the other side? And where do you want to land on the other side? Right? So, it's not a denial of what's real for you at the moment, but that's a situation you're in. That's a period of life you're going through. How can I help you get through this period of life into the next element? And the funk is usually because we're caught up in a period of life and we see that as our whole life. My whole life has been this divorce or the equivalent of it. Not really. There were times in that relationship where you were very happy. There were times in that relationship where you had great hope. There had been other times in your life where you had wonderful experiences. This is a horrible one, and I'm sure it's not the first horrible one, but this is a horrible part of your life. So, how can we get you through this? Learn from it what you need to learn about yourself, what you need to learn about life, what you need to learn about how you deal, and help you come out on the other side.
Well, what happens thinking about entrepreneurs? What happens when life goes double down on you where something personal, now it's affecting the business, like, oh my God, I have business stress and mental health to deal with. And at the same time, I've got personal, they're intertwined. What do you do in that scenario when it's like, I got two problems to deal with because my business is affecting my personal is affecting my business? What do you do in that scenario?
Well, what I first try to tell you is that it's impossible to have it not. Our business life impacts our personal life, and our personal life impacts our business life, which is why I work with both business and life. People ask, I do business and life coaching because they both are so intertwined. When it feels like you're doubling down, again, an example I give out is let's look at you sitting in this chair, right? You're sitting in this chair, and this is the essence of who you are. Across the room over there is the life you created. Across the room over there are the friends you've had, the lovers you've had, the jobs you've had, the homes you've lived in, the groups you belong to. All of that is the life you created. But it's you sitting over here in this chair. Those are experiences you created, a life journey you developed. It is not you. So let's separate the life you're living from the reality of who you are. And right now, that life you've created is going through a difficult time. And yes, if you're consumed emotionally and time wise with what's going on in your personal life, that's time you're taking away from your business, right? Whether it's a sick child or a sick partner or a divorce or something that's going on, the emotionally it has you and intellectually it has you over here rather than focusing on the business. So it really comes that, yeah. And so now the business is paying the price. So my objective is to support you to put things in perspective. Let's focus on the business and find a way to do that from 8 in the morning until 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And then let's put the business aside and let's go look at what's going on personally, compartmentalizing in a healthy way. I don't mean that as a way of life, but when you're going through a very difficult time, having the ability to compartmentalize and let's just focus on the business for now. What can we do to help the business stabilize? What can we do? Because stabilization is the best when you're going through an extremely difficult time. Let's keep it stable. And if you've got a number of people working with you, they can help it not only stabilize, but even go forward by you allowing them to take it where it needs to go while you're dealing with what you need to deal with. The importance, one, of creating a healthy team, right, that can support you in doing that. Whether we're talking a series of VAs or we're talking employees or whatever it is we're talking about, depending on the size of your company. But it's allowing you to have permission to focus on this. You're not abandoning the personal. Focus on this. And then at 4, I'm picking the time unilaterally pick 4. Now let's focus on the family. Because when we get stuck with the family and we're feeling guilty because we're not focusing on work, or we're at work and we're feeling guilty because we're not focusing on family, nobody wins, and certainly not you. So let's come on back and let's do this and let's do that. And when you can do that, you can stabilize one and have the strength to be fully present and deal with the other.
How do you do that? How do you compart? Because it sounds on the surface like, okay, I'm thinking a lot. Okay, I get it. I have to compartmentalize. But when you, let's say you say until 5 o'clock is business, it starts getting closer. How do you compartmentalize and not let the other water just rush into the compartment between business and personal?
Recognizing, emotional intelligence is an extremely important aspect of being grown up, being an adult. Emotional intelligence, understanding where do my emotions go and what kicks them off to go there. And recognizing, because sometimes it takes an awareness to have that 360, almost to step out of your situation to look at it objectively, to be able to see, all right, there's nothing I can do right now about this situation over there. There's nothing I can do at the moment to make it better or worse. It just is. If it's a divorce, it's now in the hands of the lawyers. There's nothing I can do at the moment. They're dealing with what they need to deal with. Or if it's a sick child, I've spoken to the hospital, I've spoken to my partner, I've done what I needed, what I can do right now. Okay. And I could go there and be with my little one or my big one. I could go there and be with them, right? Or not. And it may be that they want some time to just do what they need to do. And you're over here. And as soon as you're able to, you leave here and you're present over there. So you're fully present at both places. And that becomes your learning, you're recognizing that when we lose our ground, when we lose center, and we go into panic, we go into fear, we start creating stories. We start making it progressively worse. So when you have the ability to come back to you and be present here,
Mhm.
you realize I can't really do much over there. I need to be here. I've seen people who are building a house or buying a house, and they can get so consumed in the process that they become dysfunctional because everything is anxiety over will the offer be accepted, will the offer be rejected, what if, and then the stories come, what if I get this house, and what if there's a water line problem and nobody saw it, what if, and then all the what ifs come in. Now I'm filled with anxiety. I can't think clearly over here because I've got so many anxieties about what could possibly go wrong if I got this house. And if I don't think about that, now I've got all kinds of possibilities what will go wrong if I do get it, if I don't get it. Oh my God, either way, I can think of 42 problems that could develop. You're right. Or no problems develop. Or if one or two does, you'll have the ability to handle it. So let's come on back over here. Let the stories go. Let it be what it is. And you come back. So it's an awareness that we all have patterns. If my tendency is to get over anxious and create what ifs, then I know that's not truth. That's where I go. So the moment I see me creating the what ifs, the moment I see me getting anxious, I recognize that's my pattern. It's not a truth. It's how I emotionally react rather than respond to situations. So that level of self-awareness of knowing your patterns allows you to recognize them as patterns and to separate from them.
So in that case, what do? You level off, you compartmentalize, and what you just said. Now you realize you're in a hole. You're not digging it any deeper.
Right.
But how do you start to climb out once you realize you're there and you've got it compartmentalized and at least the insanity under control of, oh my God, you're not freaking out anymore. But how do you start to dig out of that? I mean, climb out of that hole instead of keep
Yeah.
digging.
So if let's talk about business. What is the issue? Is the issue that you're not doing effective marketing? And this is the identifying what are the problems, because we can just go with it's not the business isn't doing well, the business isn't doing well. Okay, all right, you can run around in a circle, or we can sit down and say why, what's going on. Do you need to hire a marketing person? Do you need to hire a salesperson? Do you need to, depending on the size of the company, do you need to hire a general manager? because you realize you're really good at leading, but you're not good at managing. Or maybe you're good at managing, but you're not good at leading. So who can you bring in? What am I missing? Which doesn't make me inadequate or inept. What am I missing? And who do I need to bring in to support me to get where it is I want to go? And if that's not the state of your business yet, it's all right. What needs to be done? What needs to be done? And you may or may not know it when you stop in the silence and look at the picture, literally laid out on your desk. So you bring in somebody to help you have a bigger vision, to help guide you and take you where you need to go. And all of a sudden, you're not caught in the muck and the mire. Not only are you not digging, you're no longer caught because you took some time to sit down and take a look at and recognize, if need be, that you don't have the skills at the moment to see your way through this. So do you have a mentor? Do you belong to a networking group where you can ask questions of others, right? Do you need to hire a coach to come in and support you? It's okay to say, I need help. I can't see clearly right now, and get the help you need. But we don't know that until we stop, because when we get caught up in the emotions and just get anxious, yeah, we are stuck. And the fact is, when we're in that place, we can't intellectually get ourselves out because the fear is too strong. So bring in somebody. Sometimes I have found it's just having a great conversation with somebody who has more wisdom and more experience. And that's really all it takes. It doesn't take a year of planning. It takes one solid conversation with somebody. And sometimes that one solid conversation can help you set a plan or can identify who you could bring in temporarily to support you in getting greater clarity and getting out of the situation your company's in. There's always a way to deal. We don't always see it, but there's always a way to deal.
Is it the same for personal? I mean, is it the same, talk it through, find some help, or are there other things as far as climbing out of the personal hole once you stop the madness and compartmentalize? Same thing or different?
It's the same thing, and depending, after 20 plus years seeing 42 patients a week, I can tell you I've seen a few different scenarios of ways to do this, right? But for each one of them, whatever that is, in an abusive relationship, in a relationship that's going nowhere, in a relationship that just isn't working, or my personal life, I want this $1 million home and I can only afford a $500,000 home. All right, let's take a look at that. What if you bought a $400,000 home right now? That's nice, that you can make into your beautiful place and bring it up. Start getting equity, improve it, start doing what you need to do, and start saving so that you can get that $1 million home later. And the setup is when I want what I want now. All right. You will probably find somebody that will allow you to buy that. And now you're going to be filled with vast anxiety because how can you support it? How can you keep it going? Right. So let's look at the dreams. Let's look at what you want in your life. Let's look at what's going on in your life. And how can we logistically and emotionally both prepare you? Because I'm really a pragmatist. I'm very much a theorist, and a spiritualist, but I'm also a pragmatist. All right, so let's look at how can you pragmatically get to that dream that you want. And it may not be today, and that can frustrate you, and the 3-year-old child can come out and get angry because I want what I want when I want it. All right, so welcome, enjoy those few moments of kicking, screaming, and then take a deep breath and come on back. You can have it, but let's look at the time frame. Let's look at what happens. So it really, there's always a way to deal. I truly believe it. I raise my kids to believe that we don't do crises here. We have big problems and we have little problems, and every problem has a solution. So let's figure out, is this a big problem or a little problem? And then let's figure out a solution.
So once you figure out the solution, you're on solid ground. How do you stay there and prevent from slipping back down?
You've got to know what you need to bring in to keep you there. And every one of us is different. Every single one of us is different. And that's part of that emotional intelligence development. That's part of the mindfulness that takes place. That if I know that I can go into, I know for myself personally, if I start feeling overwhelmed, I know the very first thing I need to do is to get out a piece of paper and write down all the things that are on my list at the moment, all my agenda. Write it down. And what I do is I've got 16 things on that list. I start with the easiest, then the next easiest, then the next easiest, and someone else will start with the hardest. My feeling for me, not the right way, my way, I deal with the easiest and then up. And so when I can begin to see, I want to, because it may be a phone call, it may be as simple as throwing the laundry in the machine, right? It could be anything. As I start doing it and I'm thinking, I'm on a roll. And now that I see me on a roll, that difficult thing is just part of the roll. It's not all that hard. If I started with the hardest one, it's easy to get discouraged because it's so complicated. I'm never going to get to the rest of the list. So for me, I start with the easiest. Somebody else does it differently. No one right way to do this. For me, that works. If I start going into a depression or, oh my God, there's so much to be done, I put on Mamma Mia. First song in, she's just walking to the boardwalk, and already I'm back. All right. I just need 10 minutes and I'm back. And it's as if I've had a great night's sleep. I'm back and I'm ready to roll. So it's for you. What is it? Because there are times, for me, it's calling a girlfriend, just sitting down and talking and maybe whining or complaining. And I end up a few minutes later laughing. All right. And it may be the movie. It may be getting out of the office, going in to make a cup of tea. So that coming back, I come back with a fresh perspective. All right. It's you knowing what do you need, because every one of us is different. So it's you taking the time to discover this works for me. This does it. For some, it's a video game. You know, that's not my shtick. For somebody else, it's a video game. If that's yours, go play a game. But I've got so much work to do. Yes. But if you go play a game and your mind goes elsewhere, when you come back, you're going to be so much more efficient that you're going to not only make up for the time you spent over there, you're going to go so much faster than if you just stayed here in a funk and did nothing. So it's knowing yourself well enough to do that. That level of self-awareness allows you also to have clarity of vision, allows you to recognize exactly where it is you want to go, and step by step exactly what you need to get there.
That is awesome. I mean, we have covered such a lot of ground in such a short period of time. Someone's watching or listening, they love it, you know, the before, the during, the after. When it comes to creating the life and business you desire and the mental health that's involved with it, if someone, whether it's reinforcing something you said or something we haven't touched on yet, if someone's like, I get all this, the process. If you were to say, if you're in a funk or you need help, at least do this one thing above all else. At least just start here and do this. What would you tell them to do?
Take a deep breath and step back and take a look at the full situation, not just at whatever it is, that one thing that's in front of you like a blaring red flag. Step back, take a look, see it for what it is, put it in the big picture. And now that you can see it, you've stepped out of the drama, you've stepped out of the crises, and you're now able to see it and then begin the process of dealing with it, whether you can do that alone or you need to bring somebody in. Decide what that is and know that there's always somebody willing to help.
This has been excellent. If people want to find you online, where's the best place or places to go?
I'm on LinkedIn, Dorothy A. Martin-Neville. My website, AskDrDorothy.com. I'm there.
Thank you very much. This has been excellent, Dr. D. I appreciate you.
You are so welcome. Thanks so very much. It's been great.
And scene.